And I will now request Rotarian Rashmi to kindly say a prayer for us.
Thank you, Ritesh. So let us pray. Dear God, thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for giving us the chance to see these moments. Thank you for loving us despite our sins. As we start this day, we pray for your guidance and your protection. Direct our path and teach us the right thing to do. Let our words and our actions be ones that bring honor to your name. Thank you, Lord, for an answered prayer. Through our God, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Rotarian Rashmi. And now I'd like all of us to recite the four-way test. I'm sure the Rotarians are well aware of the four-way test, so if you'd like to say it along with me, if you'd like to unmute as well. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth?
Things.
Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And be beneficial to all concerned?
Good.
And ladies and gentlemen, with that, if you have something to drink, could you kindly raise it? Alternatively, hand to the chest as we raise a toast to the President of the Republic of Kenya. To the President.
The President.
Very delighted you're all here today, especially because we have a wonderful speaker today, Denis Sigei, and I'm sure most of us are aware of him and most excited to learn more about the scholarship and also the various activities he's carried out with the club. Just before we begin the presentation, I see that there are some individuals here who could be guests of Rotarians, and I'd like the Rotarians to kindly introduce their guests. So kindly, if you could identify which of the guests have been brought by yourselves, Rotarians, could you kindly introduce them? Miriam, you're a guest of Rotarian Mumbi?
No, I'm a guest of Rotarian Mumbua, and
Mumbua,
I cannot see her. Yeah.
Right. Welcome. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Miriam. I'm a banker by profession. This is the second meeting I'm attending for this club. I just wanted to get to know a little bit more about the Rotary Club. So that's why I'm here. Hopefully Mumbua will come in at some point.
Thank you. Welcome. I see Rotarian, is this Rotarian Agnes or is this a guest? Agnes, kindly could you unmute and introduce yourself and let us know whose guest you are?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Agnes Madenge. I am Rotarian Dr. Jambo's guest, and I'm glad to be here today.
Wonderful, wonderful. You're most welcome. And
thank you.
I see Neon Ray Pro. That doesn't seem like a name of an individual, probably the name of the device. Kindly, if you could also unmute and let us know your name and whose guest you are.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, my name is Ronald Mkanga and I'm a Rotarian from Huma. I'm a social entrepreneur working with the youth entrepreneurship in Kenya.
Perfect. Sorry, could you, you're a Rotarian, could you let us know what you are?
He's called Huma.
Right. Where is it based?
You say?
Where is it based?
Here in Nairobi.
Thank you for joining.
He is, I think, Huma's guest.
Ah, right, he's Huma's guest, right, understood.
Yeah, that's Ray, that's Huma, my guest, like I invited him, sorry.
Right, okay.
I alluded to it earlier in my introduction.
Thank you so much.
Karibu sana, Ronnie.
Thank you.
Perfect. And well, once again, welcome to all Rotarians, family and friends of Rotary. And allow me to kindly request Rotarian Mumbi to introduce our guest speaker for today, who's Denis Sigei. And just before I request her to introduce the gentleman, I'd like to let you know that Denis Sigei is a very interesting individual. He knows a lot about Rotary, has participated in activities which have been carried out by Rotary Club of Nairobi. And he's definitely going to share more about the projects he's been involved in, but his presence and activities pre-pandemic, just before he traveled, it was literally worthy of applause. Very diligent individual, very hands-on with the projects, and a very worthy candidate for the scholarship. So with that, Rotarian Mumbi, kindly if you could introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Ritesh. Denis is passionate about changing the African narrative to one of sustainable multi-sectoral development and social equity. In 2020, Denis was one of only 12 international scholars to be awarded the prestigious Rotary Scholarship after securing admission at UNESCO IHE Delft Institute for water education in the Netherlands. Denis draws his inspiration from the Rotary motto, service above self. He is eager to continue applying his skills and knowledge to advance water, sanitation, and hygiene space. Specifically, he is keen on providing technical guidance to design and implement sustainable WASH projects. He is eager to continue working on WASH projects with RC Nairobi and District 9212 and other Rotarians globally to help accelerate implementation of WASH facilities and interventions across the global south, starting in Kenya. Welcome, Denis.
Thank you so much, Rotarian Mumbi and Post President Ritesh. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. I feel at home, although I've been away for a few, but I'm so happy to be received and also be given this amazing opportunity to be able to speak to the fellow Rotarians. So thank you so much. I hope you can all hear me okay. Wonderful. So in preparation for this fellowship, I thought it best to prepare a presentation to help guide my talk. So I'm just going to share that with you. Please let me know if you're able to see it. Just turn it on now. Sorry, the windows disappeared on me. Just a sec. Close this. Yes, okay. There we go. Is it visible?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So in this talk, I just look to do a couple of things. One, I'll give you a synopsis of my origin story, so at least you get to know a bit about me. And then I'll walk you through my career so far in the water and sanitation hygiene space, and what it was like studying at IHE Delft. And after my studies, what are the next steps? So I'll start with my origin story. So I was born in Nakuru, in a small town just outside of Nairobi. And growing up, we didn't have as much water. We always had frequent water shortages. And I always wondered why this was the case. So when I went to high school, I got introduced to science and physics and math, and the whole notion about problem solving using STEM. And this was further peaked when I joined university, and I took the route for environmental engineering, and I focused a lot more on water resources, all in a bit to try and understand why there's certain parts in the country and why our own hometown didn't have as much water. So this then led me to a path into WASH. I got an internship as an engineer intern at World Vision, and there I got to see water, sanitation, hygiene in practice out in the field, something quite different from what I'd experienced. And through this, it really piqued my interest to want to learn more about what it means to provide water and sanitation safely and accessible to people, not just in an urban setting, but also in a rural setting as well. I worked with World Vision for about 6 months. It was an internship program. And then after that, I got an opportunity to work with Sanergy. So Sanergy is an organization based in Nairobi, but is focused on building wash facilities, primarily toilets for informal settlements. So I worked there as a lead engineer, and this introduced me to another subset of WASH, which looked at having circularity in providing water and sanitation services. So then this, in working with WASH and with Sanergy, I got to learn a bit more about Rotary and what the work Rotary is doing. And so through just the support and mentorship of Dr. Ojambo, we got to do a number of WASH projects with her. Now, to zoom in a bit into the WASH space, around that time, I was also quite interested in seeing what the role of technology would play. Because from my experience with WASH practices and services in the private sector, in this case in World Vision and Sanergy, and looking now at the practices in the different WASH projects that I had been involved in, I saw that there's very limited, if any, incorporation of technology in trying to get data that makes sense, so that would then drive strategy and decision making. So along that time, I formed a company under the name Flux, which we later called Waypoints. And the whole idea was to leverage mobile technology to measure, to rather map out where the WASH facilities would be, to streamline field operations for water service providers. And then this later on morphed into MapWash about a year later at the height of the pandemic, where we got to actively work with Rotary Club of Nairobi and the District 9212 during the COVID response. I'll talk a bit more about this later on. And then after this, then I got to join IHE Delft through the Rotary Scholarship, where I did my master's in urban water and sanitation, specializing in sanitary engineering. So in World Vision, the thing that got me was what impact just having a water facility such as this one would do to the community. Before, the community members, especially women and children, had to travel so far to get water. But now here, what I got to do under supervision of the engineer there was we would renovate existing water points and build up new water points to bring water. And this is something quite similar to what I also experienced with Rotary a few years later. With Sanergy, we would build this modularized toilets in places that don't have sanitation facilities or sewer network connection. And the model with Sanergy is quite interesting because we're building it, but we're also treating this waste and converting it into valuable products, in this case, organic fertilizer and animal feed. And then with Waypoints, this was now me, incorporating the mobile technology and to try and track the activities that are happening out in the field through the field teams and just giving a way for supervisors and team managers to be able to track field operations. This is just a snapshot. I was training here field operators at Rural Water when we were testing out the system back in 2019. And then MapWash kind of came out as a result of learnings from Waypoints. And this was as a result of just seeing how this could be applied not just in the context of water utilities, but also in the context of organizations that are actively working in in the water sanitation space. So we would use very low-cost sensors and link that with mobile technology, where we have questionnaires. If you're doing any data collection, the sensors would tell us how much water is being used, where these facilities are located, and based on this information, it will give more insights that will then drive decision making from these organizations. I got to test this impact during the COVID-19 outbreak in 2020, where Rotary is actively involved in deploying the hand washing stations in different parts of the country. So this is just a picture. We were deploying this in Huruma. And here I was training a Shofco. This was in partnership with Shofco, and this was one of the Shofco attendants, and I was showing him just how in this case, he was using a questionnaire on paper and then transferring that to his phone. And so this was just a training at the time. We also got to use some QR codes to help with the asset management, as well as IoT sensors to track how much water is being used. And that way, if the tanks ran out, we'll be able to know which tanks need to be refilled. So at the end of this, we're able to track over 6 million at the time hand washes throughout the almost 1,300 deployed stations throughout the country, just as a result of trying to track this data. And this was quite insightful, and just showing what this, just how putting data and incorporating technology, even as we are trying to serve communities around us, could really be impactful. I got recognition during the Global Hand Washing Day. This is a representative from UNICEF, the country director. It was quite wonderful just to also be a part of just advancing hand washing in this way. So, having gone through this, essentially journey in understanding the different facets of WASH, I couldn't help but notice that I was also quite lacking in some of the technical fields. And IHE was a school that a friend of mine had gone to, and I got to learn about. And I was quite fascinated because of just the history that it has. So IHE is located in the Netherlands, and the Netherlands is a small country up in northern Western Europe. And the interesting bit about the Netherlands is that they're known for many things. When you think about the Netherlands, most people think about tulips or flowers, and the festival that attracts millions of visitors every year to their world-famous gardens. They also have the largest port in Europe, in Port of Rotterdam, and they are the second largest agricultural producers. And this is their greenhouses that are seen at night from the sky. They run 24/7. They're known for their cheese festival, and it's also a country where bicycles in cities outnumber the number of people living there. In fact, it's so popular that the Prime Minister cycles to work, which is quite different from different countries. But the interesting bit about the Netherlands for me was that nearly a third of the country is below sea level. And for me, it was quite fascinating because it just showed that if they're able to master water in that sense, it goes to show that then it would be the place to want to learn about everything you could know about water and how to master it, tongue in cheek. So the Netherlands, how they're able to recover or reclaim land was through a dike system. And this is a project that they started way back in the 1300s. And they've been progressively reclaiming land. And this is just a picture showing how much land was being reclaimed in about span of 700 years. And because much of the land was already below sea level, they had to build a very intricate system of dikes and canals. So this is just an example of a dike along the North Sea. It's a twin dike. And what this does is it prevents water, essentially it creates a barrier, physical barrier from water is rising and flowing back into the sea, rather into the land that has already been reclaimed. And they have about 14,000 length in terms of length of the dikes around the whole country. And because it's quite small, they had to be very methodical and calculated as to how they would utilize their land. This is a floodgate. It's one of the largest in the port of Rotterdam, which is quite automated. And this was built as a result of there's a huge flood that happened back in 1953, which then caused them to create what they call a Delta Plan, that would have a series of emergency response systems against any flooding. And this is even so relevant right now as we're talking about climate change and how the sea levels are rising. This is a picture, an aerial view of Amsterdam. And what you see in the dark lines there are not roads or streets, but actually an intricate system of canals. And this way it balances out the water coming in and the water going out, and also when it rains, because it's a water-rich country. It rains almost every other day. So they had to be quite smart in how they were doing it. So for me, this was the place to be as far as studying water is. And that became also the birthplace of IHE. So it was established back in 1957, following a huge flood that happened in 1953. And it was established under the auspices of UNESCO as a training center for postgraduate education. And up until to date, it's trained over 23,000 alumni, myself being one of them, from over 180 countries around the world. So Rotary has had a very beautiful relationship with IHE in that they created a Rotary scholarship that then sponsors students such as myself from different parts of the world. This is the data as of last year, the year before last, where they've seen about 120 or so students who have gone through the Rotary program courtesy, rather the IHE program courtesy of the Rotary Scholarship. So I took the studies of International Masters in Urban Water and Sanitation to bolster my technical skills that I'd gotten at the time, specialized in sanitary engineering. And my focus was on interlinking water supplies with sanitation systems, both centralized and decentralized systems, and looking at resource recovery in the context of food, water, and energy. So our classes were quite dynamic. We had a hybrid system. I went in at the height of the pandemic, so a lot of the face-to-face classes were reduced, and we had a lot more online classes. So this is a screenshot of my professor Jochen. This is a class on hydroinformatics, and here we're looking at doing mass balances on precipitation. And once the restrictions were a bit eased, then we would have face-to-face classes, and this is one of my lecture halls. And then we also had lab sessions as well. We were looking at research methods and lab work as well. So this is my class. I'm at the back if you're able to see me. And we also had field trips. And this field trips gave us actual real life experience as to all the things that we're learning. This is a treatment plant in Delft, in the city where my university is. And it serves about 1.3 million residents. And this one is in Berlin. So we'll make visits within the Netherlands, but also around Europe. So, and we were seeing best practices as to the different aspects of what we were learning. I was quite interested in the resource recovery track. So here, what you see are egg-shaped tanks. They're anaerobic digesters. And so what happens is when wastewater is treated, the sludge that comes out of it is digested, and then they convert it into energy, into electricity, and the residual heat is put into heat pumps that are then pumped for heating, for direct heating in the homes. That's me on top of one of those tanks. They're quite massive, and it's right near the port in Berlin. And then this is quite an innovative system, and it's something that I later on focused on my thesis was the application of membranes. So for the longest time, membranes have been used for treating clean water, but now they've been converted, and we're actually looking, part of my research was looking into how to appropriate and apply membranes also in wastewater treatment. And here, these are actually the same membranes, where what they've done, this is a pilot unit. They're looking at cleaning out and purifying biogas. So from this digesters, what you get is biogas, and there are different ways of how biogas is harnessed. But in this case, in the case of Belgium, for instance, they decided to purify it. And what you'd have is something as close as to natural gas, which is called biomethane. And so you use membranes to purify the gas, essentially remove out all the impurities, and hydrogen sulfide and all other impurities that you don't want in the gas, and have pure CO2 that then is food grade, can be used for fizzy drinks and other food processing applications, as well as biomethane, which is it's close to natural gas. So instead of having to mine it and get natural gas from fossil fuel, we instead get this from waste. So essentially closing that loop. I was also quite privileged to, my classmates and I, we were invited to do a master plan for St. Martin. It's an island, it's a Dutch island off of the Caribbean. And my team and I, we actually won the competition. So this is us receiving a plaque. And that's me next to one of my professors. And for my thesis, what I saw was quite interesting is the food, water, energy nexus, in that water is at the center of everything. We need water to grow food. We need water to produce energy. We need water for drinking, for industry. And there are all these things that play in between. We have kind of trends happening. Population growth is on the rise. Climate changes. We have economic development that also needs to be focused on. But you also have all these other players. We have government. We have NGOs. We have private sector. And so how do all these things come together, and how do we still maintain sustainability and so that we're able to still have enough resources to power our economy, but not harm the environment and not miss out on the things that we need, energy and food. So in looking at that, my professor and I, we developed this system. So we're basically using different bits of the technologies that we learned. And what you're seeing is a lab scale reactor. And what it is I don't know whether you're able to see my cursor, but there's a tank in the middle, a glass tank. So this is a digester, similar to the large ones that you saw, but this is a miniaturized one. And in it is industrial wastewater. So this is wastewater from a dairy industry. And what this is doing is it's digesting it, so anaerobically, and what's being produced is biogas. So on the yellow pipe, that's biogas, and this is a biogas meter tracking how much gas is being produced. But the novelty in this is that it has a membrane in it as well. So this membrane, essentially what it does is it recirculates this water. So once it's digested, all the organic matter is being broken down, you still have water. And this water still has all these impurities. So it goes through a membrane. There's a thin pipe here that houses the membrane. And then the blue line that kind of goes up and then comes down holds clean water. And all this, they're linked to a pump that goes into this white bucket on the left. So that actually holds clean water. The black bucket holds the dirty effluent. And what this project would show is that we're actually able to get all these bits of technology that has been developed over time, put them together and contextualize it. In this case, the idea was that we're able to get clean water from wastewater in a small system, at the same time get energy from it. In this case, we're getting energy in the form of biogas that then can be purified and can be harnessed in different ways. But the other bit is that the sludge or the solid material still remains, is quite rich in nitrogen and in phosphorus. And for those who are farmers, you'd know that nitrogen and phosphorus are the key elements that make up fertilizer: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So what we do then, the next step from this was the sludge that comes out of it, then we would extract the nitrogen and the phosphorus in form of what we're calling struvite, which is a slow release fertilizer. So this is what I did for my thesis. I got to do this, it was a lab scale, and also got to do this in Uruguay. So for our thesis, we had an opportunity to travel out to any part of the world where our institution or the Dutch government has projects running. And so I traveled to Uruguay, and their largest dairy wastewater facility were having problems in that they were having a lot of waste, but they're also using a lot of water and are trying to close that loop. So this project is essentially meant to close the loop for reusing water, but at the same time cleaning wastewater and deriving valuable products from it. So I got one of the highest grades for my thesis. This is my supervisor, Dr. Jules on the left, and on the right is Professor Sharma, who's the department chair. Aside from the studies, I also got opportunities to fellowship with the Rotary Club there. So this is just a screenshot of a Zoom meeting that we would have. So I got a chance to have both Zoom calls and also fellowships in person once the COVID restrictions were eased. And this is a picture of me with my host counselor, Rotarian Maurice. He's from the Netherlands in one of the Rotary clubs, Waegen, Rotary Club of Waegen. And after that, I also had an opportunity to I was selected to join a training in The Hague. This was in partnership with the Dutch government and the Red Cross of the Netherlands. So we did quite an intensive training for a week on emergencies. So what it means to provide water and sanitation services in case of emergencies. So here, this is my class, my cohort, and it's people from all over the world working in different capacities in the water and sanitation space. So just to kind of recap, gone through how I got here in the first place and how my studies were, but what are the lessons that I got to learn, and how are we going to use that moving forward? So one of the things that was quite stood out for me, and it's something that essentially shaped what I'm focusing on right now, is the water, energy, and food nexus, and seeing that because water is at the center of everything that we're doing, how are we able to make that incorporate circularity in it? And to kind of bring this a bit closer home, it's interesting how it's also very cross-cutting as far as what Rotary is also focusing on. So when you look at anywhere that water touches, it touches almost every aspect of our focus. We're looking at the environment, we're looking at peace, we're looking at disease prevention, water, sanitation, and hygiene itself, community and economic development. So if we look at peace, for instance, this is a screenshot of a map that shows conflict, water conflict. And someone is saying that the next conflict that we're going to see is not so much on any other resource except for water. And we're already seeing this, even at home, that a lot of the conflicts that come up is as a result of water. So then we need to find a way to ensure that water is that we still have water in a sustainable way that then can allow us to maintain peace and not have any conflicts. And one of those ways is to look at alternative sources of water. And one of them is water reuse, which is what my project was all about, looking at how then do we extract and get to close the loop in water. As it stands right now, it's very linear. We use water, water is abstracted, it's treated, it comes to our faucets, our taps, we use it for laundry, for the home, for industry, and then it's discharged. It's not circular, yet nature shows us that it's a water cycle, right? And so part of it is, if you're able to close that loop and reuse water, then maybe we would relieve some of the stress that our water resources are already facing. Not just that, but also it allows us to also extract very valuable products out of it. We can get energy from it. We can get biosolids that then we can get other valuable products, bioplastics that we can get from it. We can get nutrients from it, phosphorus, nitrogen, that then allows us to make fertilizer in a sustainable way. And that way, feeding back to ensuring food security. All of this just from reusing water. And so instead of having water treatment plant, instead we would have waste resource recovery facilities. In terms of water reuse, this is something that's actually on scale. This is a model, what they call new water. It's a model that is actually in practice. They were recently closing off the pilot phase, where they're reclaiming water from wastewater. So it goes through a series of treatment, through membranes, through ultraviolet disinfection, and then having very clean water that then is reused, that way closing that loop. Another way is, which is also quite a huge focus now, is on environmental sustainability. Now, we all know about this, and this is not just unique to Dandora in the case of Nairobi, but in major counties. We don't have solid waste management, we only have solid waste collection and disposal. And I think this can change because technology has come to a point where we can turn from this to somewhere where instead of thinking of waste as waste, we're looking at it as inputs. So the products that then come out of our households, from our industries, we can use available technology. Case in point, anaerobic digestion, for instance, purify that and get valuable outputs from it, fuel for transportation, natural gas, electricity, even heat from it. And we can turn from this to this, something that takes up less than 20 square meters, but still is able to handle about 5 tons of waste every day. We can rethink the way we look at waste, but also integrate all these aspects into one. This is a schematic of what a wash could be in a dry area, where because water is very limited, you want to close that loop, where you're having all your waste coming from your home, from your shower, from your kitchen, from the toilet, all going to a digester. All of the digested being treated through a baffled reactor that then goes through a constructed wetland, but then is pumped up, and you have enough water to irrigate your crops, but at the same time generate electricity for you. And the need is very present with us. As we speak, we still have over 1 billion people who don't have access to water. As we have seen, there's still conflict in various parts of the world just because of water. We still have over 3 billion people who don't have access to sanitation. A lot of water is still lost. And you have over 800,000 children dying from waterborne diseases, both children and adults as well. And so we cannot be having, it cannot no longer be business as usual. And we need to rethink of how we look at the whole narrative around access to water and access to sanitation and how we're looking at it. One of the projects that we're quite excited about and we're working on right now is looking at how to have smart wash. This is a schematic of a toilet that is modular, that then is inbuilt with very low-cost sensors that tell us how many people are visiting this toilet, what the water demand is, what the hand hygiene is, and whether there are any damages or there needs repair based on the usage patterns. We can have this on interactive maps that then when you click on it, you see where all the wash facilities are and what their data is. And not just where the wash facilities are, but also all the other important infrastructure or institutions around it. Case in point, health centers or schools or water sources. And we can have this on a dashboard that then tells us, gives us data that then can be turned into insights and drive decision making. And this is quite something that I think we can incorporate both at a very small scale in the WASH projects that we're doing, but also at a large scale that then at a national level where we're actively contributing to rethinking what solid waste management would be or wastewater would be. I think that will be it for my presentation. I'd just like to say thank you so much for your time and for listening to me. I welcome any questions or reactions and comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Denis, for this very comprehensive presentation. It was very clear, very concise, very well made, and it was absolutely excellent. I'd like some Rotarians or guests, if you have any questions. I see Dr. Margareta. Would you like to read out your comment?
Yes, I was very impressed. I really enjoyed what you had to say, and as you have really hit the nail on the head when you're talking about water and the crisis that is coming, that has already started in places where starvation is due to lack of water. But I wanted to know if you could elaborate on how you sort of skimmed over how easy it would be to clear garbage from places like Tandora, Matari, wherever. You said that it was quite easy to do that. How do you do that? Especially mixing plastic with metal with other garbage forms and also all the families that live on the edge of these slums, of these garbage dumps, and make their living pulling out the plastics and the metals and whatever and reselling them. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rotary Margareta, for that and for the compliment as well. I really appreciate it. So to answer your question, so I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's doable, and it would be through a series of steps. So it's one of the ways that we can actually do that is first working our way backwards. So the landfills and the dump sites that we have at the moment as a result of a failed system of waste management. So what we would do is we would provide an alternative to it. And the alternative would be one that then encourages a source separation. So where you'd separate your solids from your organics, your recyclables from your non-recyclables, and then fix the collection. So you have your source separation, then you have your collection and transportation to your recovery site. Once that infrastructure is set up, then you can close off the current dump site, divert all this, divert it away from the landfill, and then now decommission the existing dump site. Now, for the people who are working there, they do not necessarily have to lose their income or from the waste that they're recovering. In fact, they would be the best people to actually have come and eat have them work in this new facilities, this resource recovery facilities, because you still need to have people there, right? So it would be in a systematic way. First, provide an alternative system that encourages source separation, and a transportation system that also that accommodates that, and we can repurpose the existing systems that are already there. We already have waste collectors. Our collection is good. It's our handling that is not good. So provide an alternative handling facility, which is a resource recovery facility that encourages source separation. Once that is set up, then divert the waste from the existing dump sites to this new facilities. And the people who are already working there, who earn a living from this, are also working in these new facilities.
Unfortunately, I think the issue is political will to do garbage collection.
Yeah, there is that too, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Margareta. I believe Rotarian Mumbi has a question.
Yes. Thank you for such an educative presentation, Dennis. I have two questions. Do you think there is a greater need to adopt IoT and tech to aid WASH initiatives in Kenya? And my second question is, as for water and energy generation, can this be a solution to the deficit to power generation and distribution in Kenya? Yes, we have the geothermal plant and dams, but I do think that biogas would be a great alternative for urban and rural areas due to the great demand for the resource.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Rotarian Mumbi, for that. So to your first question, is there a greater need? Definitely. There's definitely a greater need to incorporate technology in WASH interventions. Right now, the technology is quite affordable. We have very low cost sensors that can be autonomous, running on battery. Solar power is quite affordable now. And the beauty about having technology as part of our WASH intervention is that it gives you insights that you otherwise wouldn't get if you're doing it manually. I'll give you an example. So we're setting up a toilet, a latrine. This latrine has a motion sensor, and it also has a water flow sensor on the sink. So every time someone comes in, it detects. Every time someone washes their hands, it detects. Now, what the data you get out of there is the number of people who have used this facility. It also get the patterns as to whether people are washing their hands when they visit this facility or not. You're able to make these correlations that you otherwise wouldn't have, and also in a non-invasive way, right? You're not standing there with a register marking and doing those things. These are possibilities that technology affords us to do it. And right now, we can easily do this because the technology is there and it's affordable. So yes, there is a greater need to do this. And it's not just about the usage, but also whether or not whatever we're doing has any impact. If, for instance, you're getting 100 hits, people going to this WASH facility, and then suddenly you only have one person or no person, then it begs the question, why is this the case? Then you investigate further and you find out, oh, the door is no longer working, and because it's not working, you can't close it. Because you can't close it, people are not using it. You see, this is something that then all this information that then you would infer just because you've added another element to it, which is technology. So yes, there is a greater need. To your second question, is biogas an alternative to the current energy crisis? Definitely. Every single town, urban center generates waste. Our current, when you look at solid waste management, 60% of our waste is organic matter. It's remains from the kitchen. It's peelings, all those things that come from the kitchen. It's waste food. It's organic matter, and all this end up to a landfill. Yet this is quite a potent resource that can generate a biogas. And right now, the technology also for biogas is not what it used to be. You know, when you think about biogas, you think of a farm with a cow and it's from cow dung, but it's no longer that anymore. We can have this large scale and we can treat it, purify it, and generate electricity directly as it is, generate natural gas, generate fuel, what is called liquefied natural gas or compressed natural gas, CNG, for driving buses and trucks. And also you can bottle it, and it's a wonderful alternative to LPG as it is. So it is I think it's an alternative that is feasible. The technology is right there. It's affordable at the moment to actually do that, and it can answer the question of energy deficits that we're currently facing.
Thank you so much, Rotary and Mumbi, for this for the two important questions, and of course Denis for a very good explanation. I'll now call upon Rotarian Huma to kindly give a vote of thanks, and thereafter I will call upon our Vice President Kalpa, and I will request all individuals, if you still have any questions or comments, either you can raise your hand and you could, or alternatively, write the message in the chat box and we'll call upon you. Rotarian Huma.
Thank you very much, PP Ritesh. Fellow Rotarians, I'd like to give a great thanks to Denis Sigei for a very informative and dedicated talk. It was clear and concise at a period where the country up north is facing 41%. The 41% of the population there is facing starvation for lack of water and failed rains. I feel like interventions that have come through, that I've heard through your presentation, would be something that would be taken up and to solve our recurrent perennial problem with not just water, but the consequences of lack of water and good methods of harvesting water and recycling. So Denis, not just that, you've also through your presentation showed what it means to be a Rotarian and what Rotary means in the world in terms of how you lived, the scholarship, how you're hosted, and the journeys that you've had. So I'm really not just educated, but really humbled at listening to this presentation. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Rotarian Huma. And I'll now call upon Vice President Kalpa.
Good afternoon, everyone. Denis, that was a wonderful talk. Biodigesters, I think there was this talk many years ago. I come from a dairy industry. And so we had somebody who had come from India at that time to talking about biodigesters, biofuel, whatever you've talked about. But at that time, the cost was very high. So it was like, I was like, do I go for it or do I not go for it? Because they talked about carbon credits and everything when this was happening. But that, like now you said, if it's feasible and it's the cost wise, it's less. I think I would probably chat with you and see how we can go about with that. And yes, congratulations on your studies and for being appreciated by the UNEP team. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice President Kalpa. Once again, Denis, I bring you best greetings from President Dr. Josephine Ojiambo, who couldn't join us today as she's doing some field work in Western Kenya. And as you're aware, there's a lot of network issues in certain parts if you go deep within the rural setting. Having said so, she really wanted to be present today. She's very proud of you. We are all very proud of you. And just on a closing note, I see Dr. Margareta knows quite a bit about Rotary scholarships. And since you are one of the individuals who has benefited from the scholarship, but is also now in turn benefiting us here, and of course, the ripple effects around the world, hopefully. Dr. Margareta, would you kindly like to share a few words with Denis? Sorry, you are on mute.
Yes, I want to congratulate Denis because the Rotary Foundation Fellowship is just for 1 year. And they, you know, you really have to pack that year with what you want to do. So for you to have gotten a master's degree and been able to travel to Uruguay and to follow up on probably one of the most fascinating countries to have dealt with the water problem is amazing. And we're so glad that the foundation could support you. We will be having a major fundraiser for the foundation later this year. So I think you are an example of why we should support the foundation, because the more we give to the foundation, the more scholarships we can give to Kenyans like yourself. So I want to congratulate also Josephine for having included you. She was very supportive of you all the way through, and we really didn't get to talk to you before. So you've done wonderful work, and I'm so impressed. And especially, as I say, the Rotary Foundation is what allowed you to do this. So we're very grateful to the foundation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Margareta. Kindly, Dr. Margareta, do stay on just a few more minutes. We are going to have announcements coming up shortly, and I'd like you to make the first announcement. So, Denis, I would also like to call upon Dr. Beatrice, who has written some wonderful messages. Actually, I'd like her to say something to you herself. She's very impressed, as we all are. Dr. Beatrice?
Yes, indeed. I happen to be very close to
Sorry, Dr. Beatrice, I think the connectivity is weak.
come to an agreement with someone so worthy of support. And we really want you to continue to shine many more who to allow Rotary Society not so proud of you and wanted to support you all the way to the finish line. Thank
you.
Thank you, Dr. Beatrice. Denis, would you like to say something to some of the individuals who shared their comments and thoughts with you?
Oh yes, mine is I'm just eternally grateful to the Rotary Club of Nairobi and to the district and the foundation. I would not have had any of this were it not for your generous support. And I think mine is just to reiterate my commitment to offer my services, technical expertise, ones that I've gained over the years, and also through this program in really advancing access to water and sanitation to all the communities that we can reach. So I'm super excited to work with the Rotary Club of Nairobi and also with the district and all the Rotarians out there. And as long as it involves water and sanitation, I'm your guy. So I'm just very, very excited and just happy to be a part of this family.
Thank you so much, Denis. And yes, it's a blessing that you're back in Kenya, and hopefully will help implement major projects where we can see communities at large benefit. Water is a resource which is scarce at the moment, and everyone is feeling the pinch, like Rotarian Huma said, that we also have a starvation as a result of the lack of water upcountry, but throughout the country, throughout the region, like you mentioned, around the world. This is a pertinent issue. Welcome back. And Dr. Margareta, announcements. I'd like you to kindly share the first announcement regarding the art exhibition. Sorry, you are on mute, Dr. Margareta.
Yes, thank you. In order to really build up the foundation and to end polio for good, the district governor has, Azib, has established a art exhibition that will be happening in November, and we'll be enlisting some of our members to assist us as we go forward, because it's going to be held at the Nairobi Serena for 2 weeks prior to the foundation dinner, which is on the 19th of November. And it's a really worthy cause. And the artwork will be coming from all over the district, which includes Kenya, Ethiopia, South Sudan, and Eritrea. And we'll also be including Tanzania, Uganda, and other places in the region. So we will be hopeful. We have a special gift from the Rotary International president, Jennifer Jones, a painting by her brother that will be auctioned off on the 19th. So we'd love for everyone to be supportive of the exhibition and the dinner and the auction. So we'll be keeping you posted. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Margareta. And also I wanted to share with everyone present here that the official launch of the print of the painting by Darren Jones, Jennifer Jones's brother, is going to take place on 30th of July, Saturday, during the charter ceremony of the Rotary Club of Jabali. And we will share, I think it has been shared previously with the club on the WhatsApp chat group, the poster. However, one thing which you must know is that Rotary Club of Jabali has been formed by some very dynamic Rotaractors of Rotaract Club of Nairobi Central, and we are most proud of them. So it'll be really good if many members can be present for the Charter of Rotary Club of Jabali. And that's when we will get to see the unveiling of the print, which will be auctioned. Do we have any further announcement? Right. With that, ladies and gentlemen, if you have something to drink, kindly raise a toast. Alternatively, hand to the chest as we raise a toast to Rotary the world over. Thank you so much. Dennis, you're truly amazing. I think we're all thoroughly impressed. And we will say a special thank you to Dr. Josephine for mentoring you and also for introducing you to the club through which the scholarship took place. And I'd like also to hear from Professor Dr. Jared Onyari, who recently also got awarded the EBS. Professor Jared, if you can hear us, would you like to unmute and say a few words to Dennis? Professor Jared? Right. So ladies and gentlemen, the meeting has officially ended. Dennis, please